小息時間過咗啦嚇，請大家。
So will members please now return to the seats? Okay, let's get seated and carry on. Mr. Lau Kok Fan, your third round, 2 minutes. Thank you. Thank you. I know that the CKR is a project we've been looking forward for a long time. It actually connects it links up the traffic between Kowloon East and Kowloon West. And if there should be a delay, there will be an impact on cost and the traffic situation. But you must understand that we've been fighting for we want to ensure that the whole project will take care of the needs of all the stakeholders. This time we've asked many questions. The department and the bureau have tried their best to answer our questions. I am now asking yet another question, but this would be determined, how I would vote on this project. I hope the bureau will give this undertaking. Now you've come up with this compromise option, which is an additional project. Now, will you promise that this option will only provide the most basic protection for the residents of Prosperous Garden, and you will use this as the basis to go back to the residents of Prosperous Garden and the Yau Cheung District Council, using this as the basis to see whether you could extend this option. If you could give us that undertaking, then I'm prepared to support this project. When you submit this project again to us in future, please make an estimate as to how much it would cost if we were to extend the length of the enclosure to 80 meters. We will allow you more budget, another budget to make that extension. Could the Undersecretary give that undertaking? Undersecretary. Chairman. First of all, I'd like to thank Mr. Lau for his support in principle. Yeah, I think you would see that we've divided up the main. We now have a project and another work project. This will actually ensure that the project will go ahead while taking care of addressing the needs of the residents. If the project were completed, certainly it will benefit the residents, and there will be an improvement for the in terms of the air quality and the noise levels. On that basis, we will try to do more. As to whether or not we can further perfect this part, I've already said in my earlier answer that when this project is completed, we will proceed with the next project as soon as possible, which is the viaduct. And we will use this compromise option as the basis when we will conduct, a technical feasibility study. We will also consult the public, including the views of the residents. Oh, I take that as a very clear undertaking. Okay. Professor Hau Cheung Yim, your third round, 2 minutes. Thank you. Question for the Undersecretary. Do we have any precedents like the present proposal? That is, we endorse the original proposal, and you also give an undertaking that there will be a compromise option. Had there been a precedent before, and can you ensure that your undertaking will be honored? Chairman, I don't have the information offhand, but I understand that for many projects, we would discuss with the residents. Sometimes a project will not be done, at one go. That it could be divided into stages. Generally speaking, that is so. For as for the things the government has undertaken to do, the government would normally do it. There had not been any previous examples where we have not done that. As far as the work of the THP is concerned, I don't think we have actually failed to deliver on our promises. So you can't give us, tell us whether or not there have been any precedents. You will need to gazette the compromise option, and you may need to conduct consultation. So there might be some delays there. If that option is not approved, your undertaking will be meaningless. Mr. Yeo, at the last meeting, the officials already told us that the compromise option and the main project should, be able to accommodate each other. Members are worried that if we cannot, whether or not the project cannot go ahead, we will have the compromise option. At the last meeting, I said that in terms of the timing, we should be able to do it. It's going to take 8 years, but the compromise option is a small-scale project, so I think we should be able to manage in terms of timing. Regarding the Gazzetto and the technical details, talking about the compromise option, technically speaking, we believe it's feasible. If the residents have further makes further demands, for such demands we will consider them, but whether or not we can do it, we can't give you an answer today. Regarding the demand from the district, now if we have the support of the residents, I don't see any further barriers. Next, Dr. Lau Siu Lai, your third round, 2 minutes. I'm sorry. This will be Mr. Eddie G. Again, your third round, 2 minutes. Chairman, in the administration's written response to my questions, well, in my question, I said that when the government, takes back the Western Harbour crossing in 2023, how would that affect the CKR? The government said that the TIA was done in 2014. At that time, the government had not yet considered about the changes in the toll fees for the different tunnels. Now, the Sha Tin Central Link, the Cross Harbour section will be commissioned in 2021. We now also have the Kowloon extension, and the Western Harbour crossings, toll may be adjusted downwards. So do you have any idea, that is, for the next few years, will you be able to give us a clearer picture? That is, when all these infrastructural works and the tunnel fees have been adjusted, how would that impact on the overall traffic situation? Secretary. Perhaps I'll start and I'll ask the TD to supplement. For the 3 Cross Harbour tunnels, which runs, across the Victoria Harbour, on the northern part of Hong Kong Island, the Central Wan Chau bypass will be completed soon. If we after we build the CKR, the urban area will become a very good transport network. It will be complete. And this network will ensure a smoother flow of traffic. But because the question of tolls is involved, and that's why we've asked the consultant to conduct a study on the toll fees, which can help, evenly distribute the traffic. Assistant Director, to answer Mr. G's question, The TIA study that we've conducted in respect of the CKR has already taken in consideration the SCL, the situation after this SCL and other road projects have been completed. As for the impact on the overall traffic situation, we are now already applying for funding to conduct a study for the traffic planning for 2030. I'm talking about the tunnels, which is more near term. This is the question we have to, a problem we have to address a few years from now. For the tunnels, we are now conducting a study regarding the tunnel linking up Sha Tin and Kowloon. We are now conducting a study on how we can reasonably evenly distribute the traffic. Where will that report be available? For the next session of this council, we will be coming back with a briefing for members. Dr. Lau Shilai. Third round, 2 minutes. Thank you. I have 2 questions. First of all, to follow up on the air pollution within the tunnels. In the middle section of the tunnel, according to the EIA report, the ventilation shaft or duct should be 20 meters tall or even higher. Can you do that? Could you explain that in detail? And secondly, regarding the sitting out areas or the open space, to build this road, you need to actually resume the sitting out areas in Council Street, Temple Street, and so on. In Yau Ma Tei, there's already a shortage of open space. After you've requisitioned these open space, will there be alternative, sites which you will provide open space for the residents? Because the residents there tend to be relatively senior in age, and they need these open spaces. Let me answer the question regarding open spaces, especially in Yau Ma Tei. Now, it is true that when the projects are being carried out, it would affect these open space. But after the project is completed, we will be doing a lot of landscaping works in the area. There will also be a landscape deck which the public can access in future. So when the project is completed, I think the environment in the Yau Ma Tei district will be improved. And with the landscape deck, which the public can enjoy, there should be an improvement for the environment, especially for in terms of the provision of open space. Regarding the middle section of the tunnel in Hau Cheung and the height of the ventilation duct, perhaps I can ask the consultant to answer the question. Thank you for the question. Regarding the ventilation building, we all know that in Hau Cheung is different from West Kowloon. The basic factor in Hau Cheung is that there will be fewer traffic, so the density of the pollutant is smaller. In our model, we've adopted the lower height of 8 meters, but it doesn't mean that there's nothing we can do. As the director said, in the ventilation building, we have an air purification system to remove the NO2 and the RSP. Also, we've considered the factor of wind speed, because the wind speed may change with the hours, but the average is about 10. So it's roughly about the speed of typhoon number 3. So with such a wind speed, I think we should be able to disperse the pollutants. We also talk about the direction of the emission, and in this case, the air will be emitted upwards. I don't think he has answered my question. The EIA report required the ventilation portal to be at least 20 meters tall, but you are only providing for 8 meters. Can you do better than that? What I said that we've adopted the 8-meter conservative estimate that would already be fully in compliance with the standard. If we were to make it taller, it would only bring about further improvements. But 8-meter will not mean that we are not in compliance. So there's no difference between 8 meters and 20 meters. As far as the EPD's requirement is concerned, there is no difference.
Director. Yes, I can supplement. For the EIA, we have taken various factors into account. Air quality is one of them. As for the visual impacts, it's another factor. Because for the ventilation opening, if it's higher, then the ventilation building would be bulkier. So it would have a bigger visual impact. We have to strike a balance. We have to take care of air quality, and at the same time, we have to take care of its visual impacts. That's how we decided on the height. Tanya Chen, 2 minutes. Chairman, I would like to ask about two things. First, for this project, a lot of public facilities would have to be reprovisioned. And in the paper, you mentioned a car park. But how about the public library, the Jade Bazaar, the Methadone clinic, the dermatology clinic, and the maternal and child health center? Would you really meet the needs of the community? Because the population has gone up in this district. And secondly, about trees. When you did the EIA in 2010, you actually conducted a tree survey in 2010, and you said that by the middle of 2013 there will be an updated version. And it seems that you are going to fell an Indian oak tree, and you are saying that because of the XLL project, you don't have to fell so many trees. Well, maybe the trees have been fallen by other projects. So do you have the most updated version? How many trees would have to be chopped, and how many trees would have to be transplanted? Under Secretary, for reprovisioning the facilities, in the paper Annex 3, we have given you the most updated information. Some of them have already been rebuilt and are being used. And can these new facilities meet the needs of the community? I think the relevant departments would have to look at that. As for car park, is enclosure 5, and members can take a look at that. As for trees, I would like to ask the director to answer your questions. Director, trees. As for the most updated arrangements, you can see the relevant information under paragraph 47. Chairman, paragraph 47. Yes, I can see that. Can you also give us the tree survey? Yes, yes. And if you have an online version, please send me a link. Then we don't have to waste so many papers. Yes, we can provide the relevant information to Ms. Chen. We still have Chen Chi-chun, Hau Kai-ming, and Helena Wang, Lau Siu Lai, Starry Lee, Claudia Mo, who would like to ask questions. Just now during the break, members said that we can move on to 37A motions. I'm not trying to draw a line here. I'm just telling you how many members are waiting. So if you want to handle 37A and vote today, please look at the time constraint. I mean, thoroughly, well, for the CKR, it can help solve the traffic congestion problems. It would include Long Cheung Road, Boundary Street, Prince Edward Road West, etc. So this is a very complicated project. It involves a lot of people and public facilities. So that's why it has taken such a long time until we come here. Or up to the time we come here. So I think it's about 10 years ago, in 2007, you conducted the first consultation, and now we are already in 2017. So you have to do a lot of things, consultation, Gazzetto, etc. This is Hong Kong speed. It has taken us 10 years. This is really too long a time because we have been suffering traffic congestion for a very long time. Well, for the CKR, the present proposal may not meet everybody's needs, but I'm sure that you have already pulled the wisdom of the mass. And I'm happy that the government has been communicating with different stakeholders. The government has also tried its best to absorb the public's views. Well, we basically will support the proposal. The government also said just now that it will take the public's views into account further. So I am now going to repeat the public's request. They hope that, well, as long as the safety services requirements are complied with, then for the 150-meter full enclosure, they hope that it can be extended by 80 meters. But of course, this should comply with the fire safety requirements. And also, they want the parking spaces in the car park to be increased. So can the director promise us that you will take this into consideration when you move forward? Under Secretary, for Ms. Lee's request, just now I have answered members, and I said that, well, when we look at the extension of the enclosure in the north, we will follow the established procedures. We will conduct another engineering feasibility study. Well, we have been listening to views, and we will definitely take these views into consideration in the future. And we will consult the residents and the district council. All this will be done. The Undersecretary has promised us that there will be district consultation. Members have asked about this, and I have also talked to the Yau Ma Tei District Council and the residents. They say that you haven't consulted them about this latest proposal, and the Undersecretary told us just now that he will do this. And the residents have been making the request that I mentioned just now, so I assume that this is a clear undertaking on the part of the government. Please try to meet the needs of the residents. We hope that this project can be implemented as soon as possible. So DAB will support this, and we will not endorse 37A because the government has given us an undertaking, because, well, we do not want to see further delay. Well, the residents have been expressing their views, and the administration has tried its best to address their concerns. I've talked to the government, and I think they have made some improvements. So I hope that this project can be approved. Next, Claudia Mo. I am a bit surprised. Well, this morning, Hau Cheung said that this can definitely not be approved today, but I think that this can be passed, so don't be worried. But I have a minor question. Well, last time you gave us a paper. Now we have a lot of infrastructure projects, and there have been problems with a ground investigation. And after works have started, you found that the ground condition is quite different from what you found in the previous survey. And you said that you have already done your best in terms of ground investigation, and you believe that the bidders would know fully what the ground condition is. So it seems that if there's any problem with the ground condition, the contractor shouldn't come to you for compensation. So are you sure that there will be no problem with the ground condition, and we can rest assured that's why we should support you? Well, other than vertical drilling, you also did other surveys, for example, horizontal drilling, etc. So can you explain more to us? For Ms. Mo's questions, well, for this project, we have tried our best in terms of investigation. We have added horizontal drilling, and we have looked at the geological condition, and we think that we have fully grasped the ground condition. And such information has been put into the contract. The contractors would know such data. And in the future, if they want to make a claim because of ground conditions, I think the chance is pretty low. Next, Mr. Ray Chen, 2 minutes. Thank you, Chairman. And I hope members of the public and the affected residents will listen to this. The government says that this cannot be combined into one project, because this will delay the project for 2 years, and each year they would have to pay $2 billion more. And now the government has given us a compromise scheme, because the director says that for the principal project will take 7 to 8 years. So for this compromise project, even though it would only get funding after 2 years, it would not affect the progress of the whole project. And it will not cause delay or incur more cost. Now, for this compromise scheme, do you have a timetable, or do you have a time limit? Just now, Starry Lee says that for the principal project, ever since we started talking about it, many years have lapsed. So for the compromise scheme, you have to do everything anew again. And when you come back to LegCo, it may be 3 years later, and we won't be here. So if there are more members, like Michael Tsuen, they may not endorse your scheme. So do you think the scheme can come back to us within this term? Otherwise, we won't have to say if you come back too late. Well, we still have 3 years, Mr. Ray Chen, for this term. So I think it's quite likely that we can approve the funding for the compromise scheme. Well, if you look at the principal project, because it's not just about Prosperous Garden, it also involves Kowloon City, East Kowloon, and it covers a huge area, so it's of a much greater scale. It's very, very different from this enclosure issue. So I believe we will have enough time. Also, the director said that he would start the relevant procedures as soon as possible. At the moment, we cannot tell you the exact timetable, but we understand the concerns of the residents, and we will try to move forward as soon as possible. Well, we will have to go to the transport panel again, and then we will go to PWSC. So if you support us, of course, things will go smoother. Well, if we do not give you a difficult time, how long do you think the project will take? Director? In the future, when we roll out the principal project, we will put conditions in the relevant contracts. And we will bear the compromise scheme in mind when we roll out the principal project. And at an appropriate time, we can start the compromise scheme. As to when this will be submitted to the electrical again, we will try our best to come back to electrical within this term. So you mean within the coming 3 years? Yes. So you hope that the procedures can be completed? Yes, we hope that we can get the funding within 3 years. Now there are still a number of members, Hau Cheung, Helena Wong, and Lau Siu Lai, who would like to ask questions. Well, I've been very flexible when it comes to the time given to members and officials. Now, if you want to move on to 32A, then after these members speak, we can embark on 32A. Mr. Hau Cheung, I only have a question. Well, for the T2 trunk road, are you sure? Dr. Lau Siu Lai, do you have a point of order? Well, after the chairman draws a line, I think you would give each member 3 minutes. Well, it's not a PWSC practice. Well, can you give us more time because I still have some questions. I have explained that for these 2 meetings, I have been very flexible, and I have given Lau Siu Lai a lot of time. I just need 3 minutes. Well, you will be speaking for the 4th time, so I won't just give you 1 minute. I will continue to be flexible, okay? So I hope that you can also work with me. Mr. Hau Cheung, for the T2 trunk road, are you sure that it can be completed at the same time as the CKL does? Well, in our supplementary paper, we also mentioned this. There is a table showing you the T2 road. And for part of this project is for the preparatory works of T2. Well, T2 is relatively simpler if it's compared to the CKL. So when do you think you will come to apply for funding? If T2 is not built, then the CKL won't be functional. Well, our thinking is like this. We will tie T2 in with CKL. We hope that they can be completed at the same time. As to when we will come to apply for funding, I think we have to have the funds for these projects first. Well, there has been major delays, and this won't be completed before 2025. If you cannot build T2, then I think the CKL will be cut off in the middle. So I hope that T2 can be built at an appropriate time. Yes, that's why we are planning T2. Helena Wong, 4th round. Chairman. Well, for CKL, you will be demolishing the Yau Ma Tei government offices and the Yau Ma Tei car park. But the Gascoigne Road flyover will continue to operate, and there will be a temporary flyover. I'm worried about the public car park. For the existing car park, it has 750 parking spaces. And the government says that the utilization rate is 88%. So that means 660 parking spaces are being used by the public. So after demolishing the car park, you have some temporary measures for car parking, right? So after the flyover is built, well, at the original sites there will be a development project. So what will be built there in the future? The government says that for that development project, it hopes that parking spaces will be provided. Can you assure us that 660 parking spaces will be provided? That
陳生嚇，陳議員先生。
多謝主席。就頭先議員提到嗰啲數據係啱嘅。
Well, our plan is that we would look into this with the planning department on what will be provided. We'll provide parking spaces. But the development would only take place sometime in the future. We would like to conduct a parking study on Yau Ma Tei District to inform us on the number of parking spaces. Well, you say that 660 parking spaces are being used, but there are other parking spaces in Yau Ma Tei. So we need to know the situation at the time when the new development is implemented. We need to carry out a study. So in the parameters for the new development, you cannot promise that at least there will be car parking spaces, at least 660 car parking spaces for the public. We will conduct a parking space study of Yau Ma Tei District. I think that would be best before we make a decision. I believe the transport panel will look into this. Well, I'm going to move 32A. Yes, I received that. The serial number is 003A. Dr. Lau Siu Lai, I have a question about open space. According to the director, after the trunk road is completed, there will be more open space, but the construction time is very long. It will be completed in 2025, the soonest. And in the meantime, there are elderly people. The population there need to be provided with open space. Can you, in the interim, identify for open space sites for the residents there, because this is one of the hardest hit areas in terms of under provision of open space? And also at the Shanghai Street, you have reprovision the Yau Ma Tei Public Library and the Jade Market. As there will be temporary facilities. So are they going to be reprovisioned permanently elsewhere, or they will be there for permanent? I understand the members' concern about open space. We are equally mindful that we have taken up some open space as a work sites. So together with the district officers concerned, we will try to find if we can provide more sites. After the West Kowloon rail station is completed, there will be a big open space. Even if you are not a railway passenger, the open space can still be accessed by the general public. And also for this car park site, there will be a new development. We will talk to the colleagues in the districts to explore whether more sites can be made available for open space. Can you give us something in writing before you proceed to the Finance Committee? What about temporary sites for open space in the interim period? Well, we need time, because there may be other existing uses on those sites, and of course this project has not commenced, and we will talk to our colleagues in the district to see whether there are other sites available for this. When I chair the subcommittee on markets and local fairs, I asked for information on size. So you need to expand efforts in identifying sites for open space, because elderly residents do need such facilities in the interim. We understand that we would do our best to find more sites for open space. Fourth round, we have Mr. Chu Hoi-tik, and then we will proceed to to address those 32A motions. I note that the temporary building structures for the public library, there will be temporary structures for the temporary library and the Jade Market. What's the number of stories that we're talking about? 4 stories. How many stories for the library and how many for the Jade Market? The top 1 to 4 stories will be for the public library. On the ground floor, it will be for the Jade Market. In terms of size of the site, it's as small as the library. I'm concerned about there will be insufficient space for storage of books. So apart from the implementation program, can the government also give us the TIA, the full version? We've only got the executive summary. Can it be done? Can you provide more information? Director? Yeah, yes. You mean I mean the fake document? Yes. All right, let's deal with 32A. 001 from Miss Claudia Mo. Yes? You want to claim a division? Mr. Chen Hang Ban? No? Oh, it's a Nathan Law. Sorry, my mistake. And I just say the wrong name. It's not a quick issue of misidentification. I won't say he looks like a certain other member. 001, please project it onto the screen. Please sound the bell. 5 minutes.
好嘢，你可以選擇讀出嚟㗎嚇。
Should I read it out? It's not been projected onto the screen. No? Okay. I have to stress that this is a request from the residents. The government must consider at this stage that at the flyover at Block 1 of Prosperous Garden facing Hau Cheung Street, the noise barrier, noise enclosure should be extended, should be fully enclosed for the 80 meters section, which should also be removed away from the residential area. How many 32A motions have we received? We have received 5. And we have received 1 which in my view is irrelevant.
好，我諗我就截止啦嚇，應該就收到。
I think I should draw a line here. I've received 5 such motions.
嗱，而家要投票咧，就係是否同意處理嚇。
Do we agree to deal with this 32A motion without notice from Ms. Claudia Mo? Do we agree that we should deal with it?
我可以嘅，就因為 就大家派咗就珠海地院005。
Ms. Chu Hoi-dik's motion is numbered 005. The study on the increase in traffic flow is not related to our discussion, so I won't allow that to go forward. Members, you are invited to vote on this matter, and that is, do we agree to deal with Ms. Claudia Mo's motion move under 32A? It's not the same as discussing whether you agree with the contents of the motion, or you agree with the views expressed in this document. Please proceed to vote. Before I announce the result, please verify your vote. Voting is now closed and the result displayed. 29 present, 12 for, 16 against, no abstention. The result is in the negative, and we are not going to deal with this motion. 002 from Dr. Helena Wong. Do we have anyone who claims a division? Do you claim a division? Okay. Mr. Chu Hoi-dik claims a division. Please sound the bell for 5 minutes. And you can choose to read out your motion. Can I do it now? You may read it out. Again, this motion reflects residents' views, and that is in respect of the compromise scheme for say Central Kowloon route. The government must consider providing or extending the full enclosure of the by 50 to 80 meters at Block 1, the Prosperous Garden, facing Kam Suk Street, so that the opening, the portal, will be far away from the residents.
俾噶啦，唔俾噶啦。係啊，我講咗，應該都唔會。現在進行比決，喺我宣布停止。
Let's proceed to vote. Before I announce the result, please verify your votes, members. Voting is now closed and the result displayed. 28 present, 12 for, 14 against, 1 abstention. So this is in the negative. We are not going to deal with the motion. 003 from Dr. Helena Wong again. You want a division as well? Yes. Please sound the bell. After demolishing the Yau Ma Tei public car park, the government must promise that in the new development projects, at least 660 public parking spaces should be provided.
12對10。
64，你記住啊！我呢個都係60幾嘅啦，64，劉生話64，如果計埋加會嗰2次就70啦。現在進行比決，喺我宣布。
Let's proceed.
Before I declare the results, please verify the votes that you have cast. Right. We'll now display the result. 34, 12, 30 present, 12 for, 8, 16 against, and 1 abstention. So the motion is not carried. We're now on to motion number 004, moved by Mr. A. Chen. I am moving this motion, which my motive is to ask the government to come up with better, more improved version. I move that in view of the compromise option, which is not satisfying the Yau Ma Tei District Council and the transport panel of this council and the residents in the area, the committee urges government to amend the compromise motion and to extend the enclosure, the noise enclosure on the flyover along towards the direction of Hau Street by 40 meters, and that the portal be further away from Prosperity Garden. We still have one more 32A motion moved by Mr. Eddie G.
現在進行表決。
Voting begins. Before I declare the results, please check the votes that you have cast. Please stop voting now and we'll display the result. We are 30 present, 12 in favor, 6 against, 1 abstention. So we will not deal with this motion. We move on now to motion number 6, moved by Mr. Eddie Chu. Again, Mr. Chu is calling for a division. 5 minutes. 006. So it's 006, the other one. It's at the back. 006 is at the back, on the reverse side. Thank you, Chairman. Pursuant to paragraph 32A of the Rules of Procedure of the PWSC, I demand that the government should with the beginning of the project on the CKR, set up a coordinating committee comprising different government departments to coordinate the matters relating to the treatment of gardening waste arising from the project.
現在進行表決，喺我
Voting begins. Before I declare the results, please check the votes that you have cast. Please stop voting now. We have 31 present, 11 for, 17 against, and 1 abstention. So the motion will not be dealt with. So we've dealt with the 32A motions. If members have no further questions, I shall now put this proposal to the vote. All those in favour? Is anyone calling for division? Okay, we'll ring the division bell for 5 minutes.
好，而家嘅投票咧就係是否咧係
We are now voting on whether or not to approve this funding proposal. That is paper PWSC 2017-18-11, the Central Kowloon Road main works.
現在進行表決。喺我先。
Voting begins. Please check your votes. Now we are voting on the funding proposal. Please don't be confused. Voting stops. The voting result will be displayed. 31 present, 18 for, 1 against, 11 abstains. So the project is approved. So would members suggest that this item be voted on separately at the FC? Mr. Ray Chan? Okay. I would like to thank the government officials, the professor, and the consultant for attending this meeting. Next agenda item is 183GK, Reprovisioning of Shanghai Street refuse collection points and street sleepers services units to the site on Hau Cheung Street, Yau Ma Tei, for the Phase 2 development of the Yau Ma Tei Theatre project. The payment number is PWSC bracket 17 to 18.4. This paper proposes that 183GH be upgraded to Category A at an estimated cost of $229.7 million in MOD prices. On the 27th of March 2017, the government consulted the Home Affairs panel concerning the project. Members in general did not object to submitting the proposal to the PWSC. As for the relevant report, it's already been tabled. We have the following we have a number of officials who are attending for this item, and I'm not going to read out their names. Now, members can raise their questions. Helena Wong, Chairman. With regard to the Yau Ma Tei Theatre and the refuse collection point, as well as the street sleepers shelter. In the last term, we've discussed a lot about this, and the government has made some responses already. And today, I would like to ask some questions. Now, for the original number of beds is 70. So, for the newly reprovisioned SSSU, and there's only one floor and there are still 70 beds. We have talked to the relevant social workers and organizations serving street sleepers. And also for Yau Ma Tei and Sham Shui Po and even Mongkok, the street sleepers in these districts actually have a bigger demand. There's much more than 70 beds. I understand that the utilization rate is not 100% now, but it's because of the extremely poor condition of the shelter. They'd rather sleep on the streets. The government has promised us that improvements will be made to the hygiene of the new shelter. So the street sleepers will go there, and there will not be enough places for them. Can the government promise us this? That is for the reprovisioned shelter. We understand that for the ground floor is an RCP, and for the second floor is a storage room. And also there will be an IT office. Well, for this floor, can you allocate some space for more beds? We want to fight for more resources so that we can add another floor of beds for the street sleepers. Can the government do this? And can SWD fight for more resources for us? Ms. Angela Lee, Deputy Secretary, please turn on her microphone. Thank you for your question. Well, for this redevelopment, we have listened to members' views and we have made a number of revisions. As for the two LCSD floors, we have taken members' views on board. That is, the distance between the shelter and the RCP should be bigger. And we understand that the LCSD needs spaces for storage and offices. Well, let me tell you more about the design. The ASD has made the indoor space allocation more flexible, and LCSD office doesn't have to be at a certain exact location. So if we need to make changes here, there is certain flexibility, and we can make changes afterwards. So LCSD doesn't object to this. That is, if we want to use the second floor for street sleepers shelter, you won't object to that, right? Now we are applying for funds for reprovisioning, and now we have to take care of the needs of the LCSD, and we make the calculations accordingly. However, in the long run, if there are other community needs in the district, and if LCSD has other alternative sites, then we can make changes to these premises. Well, can the SWD answer my questions concerning the places for street sleepers? Ms. Ma? Thank you, Chairman. I think it's Dr. Helena Wong that's asking you questions. Oh, sorry, Ms. Wong. And we have been very concerned about the places for street sleepers. As the member said just now, when we look at the occupancy rate, yes, sometimes it will rise, sometimes it will fall. And the Shanghai Street shelter in 2016, the occupancy rate has dropped. But we understand that it doesn't mean the demand is also dropping. So we would closely monitor the situation. If there is a need, well, we will look at the actual service demand, and then we will fight for more resources to provide more services. So now you're not going to conduct a review. You will only conduct a review in the future, right, Ms. Ma? No. We have been monitoring the data. In 2016, for this Shanghai Street shelter, the occupancy rate was 66%. And now it will be reprovisioned to Hau Cheung Street. So we stick to the original number of places, that is 70. But we will continue to monitor the surface situation. If there is a need, we can accommodate flexible arrangements. An Chung, Chairman. Well, just now, the Assistant Director addressed Dr. Helena Wong as An Chung. I'm not saying that you look like me, because I have been asking this question all along. And now you are going to have an expansion. Why can't you increase the number of beds from 70 upwards? And now some street sleepers are sleeping on the streets in Yau Ma Tei. If you can provide them with a dormitory where they can spend the night, then they don't have to sleep on foot bridges or subways, because that would cause obstructions to residents nearby. So I hope that when you do your design, you should reserve more space for them. And Chairman, I have another concern. Now, for the theater phase 2, well, originally it should have started 4 years ago, and for the new shelter, it should have been expanded 4 years ago. However, some members were dissatisfied with the design, so there have been major delays. And I would like to ask these questions. I do not have the figures with me. Why don't you tell me about them? 4 years ago, when you came here for funding, how much did you ask for? This time around, you asked for $229.7 million, right? And 4 years ago, how much did you ask for? Do you have the figure? Because for this project, I think it's the third time that is submitted to the electrical. Ms. Lee, in 2014, when we came here, well, we asked for $165.3 million, but at that time we didn't have so many floors, and later we changed the design and 2 more floors are added, and also there was no elevator. In 2014, now is 2017, so 3 years have lapsed. And according to the administration's response, the Deputy Secretary's response, you're saying that because new facilities are added, so the price has not risen. However, for many government projects, when they are submitted to us 1 or 2 years later, there will be a price increase of 10 or 20%. So how come you are doing such a good job? After 3 years, still the price hasn't risen. Now, it's just because you are adding facilities, so that's why the cost has gone up. So how do you make the calculation? Now you have been dragging this for such a long time. So for Yau Ma Tei Theatre Phase 2 and the new shelter, when can they be completed? Do you have a timetable, Ms. Lee? Well, for this redevelopment project, if we can get a funding, then in the 4th quarter of this year we will start doing it. And on Hau Cheung Street, we will have to build a new building, and in the 1st quarter of 2020 it will be completed, and then we will start the reallocation, and by the end of 2020 the whole project can be completed. Any other question, Ms. Cheung? No. Lau Sulai. Just now, members have said that there are many street sleepers in this district, in the whole of Hong Kong, 2,000. But this is also a very serious problem in Yau Chin Mong. Why is the occupancy rate so low at present? There are 2 reasons. First, now it's on top of an LCP, so there are rats and fleas there. In particular, fleas are a huge problem. They cannot spend the night there, so they rather sleep on the streets. This is the first question. As for the second question, for street sleepers, most of them are quite old, and some of them have physical problems. So now you have many bunk beds, and many of the street sleepers cannot climb onto the upper bed. So that's why the occupancy rate is so low. And now you are relocating the shelters. Still, it's on an LCP. And I have called the planning department. I asked how come you do not add more floors. They say that there is no height restriction. So if you add more floors, then you do not need to use bunk beds, and the number of places can be increased to cope with the demand. So how come you are just building such a short building? Ms. Lee? There are mainly 2 questions. First, why are we still putting it on an LCP, and how come there are so few floors? As for the first question, in the past 3 years, we have been discussing this project many times. In the course of discussion, we have been talking to the planning departments, and we asked them whether a new location can be given to us. That is whether we can have a separate LCP and a separate shelter. However, it's very difficult to identify such a site. And also for these 2 facilities, they have to remain in the district, because we have to meet the demand of the district. And if we move the shelter too far away, then the street sleepers won't go there. So that's why we have to use the Hau Cheung Street site. And because these 2 facilities would have to put together, so when it comes to the design of the building, we have made a lot of effort. We made many revisions so as to make sure that the LCP would not influence the street sleepers so much. Now we have added 2 floors, and there are 2 extra floors for LCSD. But you have not increased the number of places for street sleepers. I ask you, how come you cannot build more floors? As for the building height, as to whether we can build more floors, when we consulted the planning department, because this is a GIC site, so we have to look at air ventilation and visual impact. So we got an advice from the planning department, and these buildings should not exceed 25 meters in height because of air ventilation. And now we have a vent on the top, so it's almost 25 meters. It's quite in line with the planning department's advice. Well, I have called the planning department myself. They say that in the law there is no height restriction. But you are not building a major housing estate here. This is not a bulky structure. This is just a tiny building. Even if you add a few more floors, it doesn't matter, but you can solve a lot of problems. How would it affect air ventilation? It's just one standalone building. If you say that this would affect air ventilation, then you should give me a report telling me why. I think you should add more floors, then you can really solve the problems for the street sleepers. ASD. Well, the planning department has conducted an air ventilation assessment for this district, and this is the advice they gave us. This is a GIC site, so we have to meet the requirements of the north-south ventilation corridor. Well, this is just a general principle, and we're just talking about adding a few floors, and then you can solve a major social problem. I have looked at the surrounding areas, and they are mainly low risers in the vicinity. So I think you can add a few more floors here. Well, can you explain to us in writing later? This is the 3rd time you come back to us. We have been asking you about planning considerations, plot ratio, height restrictions, etc. These are not new questions. So please give us a paper explaining about all this so that members can have a better understanding. Yes, that's exactly what I want. Our meeting will be adjourned at 1 today, so I don't think we'll have enough time for another member. Well, I'll just ask very short questions. Selena Wong. Well, for the SWD, before you go to FC, can you give us the number of street sleepers in Yau Ma Tei, Mong Kok, and Sham Shui Po, and the number of beds available for them? And will the SWD consider adding more resources so that the number of places for street sleepers can be increased? Do you have the figures now? If you do, please give them to us now. Otherwise, give it to FC. Can you provide the data to us after the meeting? Maybe I can answer the question. Ms. Ma? Well, for our street sleepers registration, we have some data. In Sham Shui Po, well, maybe I'll give you the overall figure. We have 936 registered street sleepers all over Hong Kong. In Sham Shui Po, we have 375, accounting for 40%, and in Yau Chim 366, 39%. As for the number of places in West Kowloon, we have looked at NGOs and self-financing organizations, and now they are providing 393 places. Yes, okay, I think time is up. Our next meeting will be on the 28th of June, 8:30 in the morning. We don't have a quorum now. I think time is up. Ms. Lau Siu Lai. Let's continue to discuss this at the next meeting because I still have many questions. Yes, our next meeting is on the 28th. So for the item we passed today, it will be submitted to the FC in July.